If you saw our last video, you will know that we spent over $50,000 in modifications on my F30 335. Of that 50 grand, we spent 12 grand in performance mods. Well, today, we're breaking out the dyno and we're gonna see just how much horsepower that money bought us. Hey, this is Bryan. Thanks for watching Kies Motorsports. If you like our videos, give us a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, and check us out at KiesMotorsports.com. That is right, we spent over $50,000 in modifications on this F30 335. And if you didn't check out that video, I'd highly encourage you to do so. We'll put a link down in the description. Now, of that 50 grand, we spent 12,000 bucks on performance mods. And today, we're gonna find out what kind of horsepower and torque we're gonna get out of this car. Now, for the last few months, by far, this is our most requested video because you guys have never seen it. Well, we've actually never dynoed it. We got our dyno, I guess, mid-2020, and by the time we got the dyno, the car was off to the wrap shop for a couple months. We got it back, had some other projects, and well, here we are, 2021, and we're finally gonna put it on the dyno. Now, in today's video, not only are we putting it on the dyno, but we've never fully dialed it in on 93 octane. So we have Cary Jordan on standby, and he's gonna watch the logs and watch the dyno and tweak our maps as we go. Last thing I wanna say before we jump on that dyno is if you are interested to see that list of performance mods, we have everything linked below. I have Cary on the line, he's ready to rock. Let's get the car on the dyno and start the session.
Well, that sucked.
That sucked. It was awful. It ran terrible. All right, so run number one was awful. We got 354 horsepower to the wheels, 470 foot-pound torque. Yeah, we need to work some things out. This is why we have it on the dyno. So I'm going to talk to Mr. Cary Jordan and send him over my log, and we're going to see what improvements we can make. And I think this is cool because you get to see the progression of it. We just put a fuel pump in. We did some other things. So you know, we knew that there were some kinks to work out. It runs a little funky sometimes. So today is the day it gets smoothed out. All right, so as you saw, run number one was amazing. It had 354 horsepower, which would be great for a lightly modified 335, not a heavily modified one. So we're misfiring pretty bad. So what we need to do is we are going to upgrade the plugs. We already did this, so we're not sure if maybe we got a bad batch of plugs or what the situation was because we might have 50 miles on these. So Cary just said, hey, put some new plugs in, let's gap them to 0.022, and then do another run and see if that helps our misfire issue. All right, so let's try this again. First run was awful, but we're not done yet. We're just getting started. We had a little hiccup with spark plugs, so we got some new NGK plugs. Very glad that local auto parts stores had just enough. And yeah, so we just put them in. We're gonna leave all the bracing off for now because if we have another issue, which I don't think we will, I just want to be able to address it. I know that if I put the car back together completely before we do another run that we're gonna have an issue. So, hey, leave it apart. So that way if something happens, easy access. And then once we know it's good, we'll put the car back together. But with that, we're gonna put these fans back on and get ready for round number two. In your face! So we jumped like 90 horsepower. We got 440 horsepower to the wheels, 557 foot-pound torque, 93 octane. Haven't said that yet. It's not E85. Yeah, so that made a big difference. Make sure you have good spark plugs. So that was way better. I have to call Cary, have him look at the log and all. It's still a little funky. So if you look at it, it's not very smooth. They're not always smooth, but there's definitely some things that can be worked out still. So looking forward to turning this power up. All right, so as I said, don't put your car fully back together if you're doing some testing. Well, if you're on a dyno at least. We think I have a bad coil pack. So funny. reliability wise, this car has been great. I've had more issues today than I've had in the last 2 years. But once we get this on, it should be good. So let's put this on. We'll do another run and we'll see how we do. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna write down my numbers from the last run, and then we're gonna do another run. We haven't even made any tune revisions yet. Look at that, an 85 horsepower from spark plug, so definitely a good mod. Curious to see if my little coil pack here can add more power too. All right, so we made a little less power that time. So now what we're gonna send these logs off to Cary and see what magic he wants to implement to make this thing a little bit faster. All right, so Cary took a look at the map and wanted to make some changes. We also had a bad coil pack, so bad spark plugs, bad coil pack. Hopefully everything's fine now. I mean, Cary's just gonna work out some things. We're just flashing his latest revision. Curious to see how that's gonna do. He also wanted to take the power down a little bit, correct some things, and then we'll boost it back up. All right, so this is at, it's finishing up. So get ready, back on the dyno. That's right, we put down 277 horsepower and 261 foot-pound torque. Yes! All right, like we said, we wanted to bring it down and then bring it back up. So, all right, so as we said, we knew Cary was gonna bring it down. We didn't know that much, but that's okay. He wants to just smooth some things out and then, you know, bump up the power, but it's just part of the process. Sometimes when you're going through, sometimes you go up and up and up. Sometimes you have to take a step back to just kind of reevaluate and then go from there. But everything is smoothed out. I'm looking at the data log now. All those little issues we had with cylinder 2 is pretty much cleared up. The misfire issues appear to be gone. So it's nice to just be able to level set and get everything running right and then take it back and then see what we do. New map is flashed, ready to rock. Let's see if we can beat 277 horsepower. 278, we did it! 278! I think I forgot to flash the map because we got the same horsepower. Take 2, hold on. No! 278! At least I flashed the right map. So after thinking about it, I think I did actually flash it. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what Cary wants to do here. Well, didn't like that one. New revision is up. We had a little overboost issue, which is what that little craziness was, but we're ready to rock, so let's get started. That was much better. 460 to the wheels, dead even, 538 foot-pound torque. But the thing about that run, I know we've had some wild runs here with our issues we had, so smooth. That felt really good. Even though I'm stationary, you can still feel if the car's acting up, if it's misfiring, if, you know, like with the overboost, if something's kind of wacky, you can totally feel it. You can also feel it if everything is really nice and smooth. So that was a really good run. So I'm gonna show Cary, see what he wants to do. All right, new revision is up. Let's give it a shot. 457 to the wheels for the horsepower and 550 foot-pound torque. Now, just as a reminder, my tuned F30 M3, it's on stage 1 tune, is at 464 horsepower and 530 foot-pound torque. So just something to keep in mind. When we're done today, this car will totally be faster, especially since it has all-wheel drive. You can drive it in the snow, you can drive it year-round. It's just a fun car to have, so I'm really happy about this. I'm looking forward to seeing if we can do anything for that little boost lag, because there's nothing before 3,000 RPMs, but it's going totally in the right direction, so super excited for today. All right, so we didn't want to just leave it with some dyno testing. We needed some real road results. So we are out here on the road, and you know, tuners can make the car powerful and all, but drivability is where it's at. So Zach and I are out here and we're gonna see how it does on these back roads. Oh. Wow, I didn't know this car had that in it. Oh my gosh. Good job, Cary.
That's the first time.
Look.
Oh. That was the first time we drove it after it's all dialed in.
Oh, no misfire? Yeah, it's all dialed in. Oh man.
Can't even hold the camera.
Yeah, it feels really good. Now, I normally drive, just from driving the F30, I normally drive with the paddles. But this car, it drives so much better than it did. I mean, I had some issues before with the misfiring and whatnot, but it feels so good. Now, as for fueling, as you mentioned earlier on, we're just on straight 93. We're not on, there's no E85, there's no meth injection or anything like that. Because I wanted this, for this car, for now at least, I wanted it to be easy. So you go to the gas station, you get 93, which is available everywhere here, and we're good to go. With some of the other cars, we might be messing with some other fuels and whatnot. Maybe with this one we will, but for now, I just wanted to at least have a good base. And this car just pulls so stinking hard, especially with a 540 foot-pound torque or so. I mean, it's literally more torque than my F80, and it's all-wheel drive. So you can't beat it. You could have even, you know, much crappier tires on this car than the F80, and this one just hooks every time. That's why it's so fun to take it to the track. And I really wish the track was open, but we're just gonna have to wait a couple more months until they open it back up. But yeah, definitely feels very drivable. Let's continue our drive. We'll go across here, and then we will, you know, just talk about what it's like when it's not wide open throttle. Now, as a reminder, I do have a pure stage 2 turbo on here that I got, I guess, about 2 years ago. There is definitely turbo lag, not anything Cary did. It's just natural of when you have a big turbo. Typically with this setup, the power does nothing before 3,000 RPMs. And again, that's just how the big turbos tend to work. So let's see. Let's go down a different road. But if you're at like 2,000 RPMs and you put your foot down, it takes until roughly 3,000 RPMs to kick in. And then when it kicks in, if you look at the dyno graph, it's like nothing, nothing, nothing. And then it's like straight up. You can see it on the dyno. But overall, drivability, you know, in a residential area, doing the speed limit, I mean, it definitely feels like a modified car. I mean, there's no real comparison. You're not really gonna have that big of a turbo and still have it feel super factory. It feels like an aftermarket, you know, it feels like there's some upgrades on this car, which there are. And this is the feel I wanted. I didn't want necessarily a factory feel for this car. But just cruising around town, it's very smooth. You know, with the exception of the insane torque spike if you put your foot down. But the next thing we're gonna have to work on is the handling, and who knows, maybe we have a video on that coming up. But we'll save that for another day. All right, let's punch it in first. Let's go back to the shop and we'll talk about the numbers that this car put out. All right, so here we are back at the shop, and like I was saying, the car drives amazing and can't thank Cary Jordan enough. So what we like to do is once we have the car dialed in, we like to do 3 runs, and then we like to average the horsepower and also the torque so that you get a better representation, because once you run it 3 times, you start to get things like heat soak and whatnot, and the number kind of, you know, it typically just goes down. So what we wanted to do 3 runs to just give you an average horsepower and torque rating for this car. Now, as most of you already know, with the Dynapacks, they typically run lower than a Dynojet, which I'm okay with because I would rather have a lower number on paper and then a, you know, kind of a surprise number at the track. But anyway, so the first time we ran it, we got 457 horsepower to the wheels, and we had 550 foot-pound torque, which is awesome because it's more than my F30 M3. Then the second run, we lost 1 horsepower. We went down to 456 horsepower again to the wheels, and our torque dropped by 10 to 540. Then on the third run, we gained a little horsepower. We went to 459, which typically happens. It goes up and down a little bit. 459 horsepower to the wheels, and then our torque was at 537. So when you average all of that together, it gave us an average of 457 horsepower to the wheels and 542 foot-pound torque. Now, with the F30 335, they typically come with about 300 horsepower, 300 torque. So when you look at that, it's a 157 horsepower gain after all the modifications we did, and an astonishing 242 foot-pound torque increase. And to break it down further, what we're going to do is figure out a rough dollar number per horsepower and also torque. Now, it's not exactly perfect science because some things we added on the list, like charge pipes, which you need, otherwise they're just gonna blow up on you. They don't add any horsepower at all. Same as spark plugs, they more so prevent misfiring. So there's a lot of mods that we did on this that were more preventative items that you need to go higher horsepower. So it's not like every dollar we spent actually got us horsepower. But if you take that $12,000 and you divide it out by our gains, it's an average of $76 per horsepower, which is kind of a lot, and also $50 per foot-pound of torque. So $76 per horsepower and $50 per foot-pound of torque. But after everything is all said and done, I am super excited about the results of this car. Cary really helped bring the car back to life, and I can't wait to drive it more. And we have some other mods. We're not done yet. I know we added up the cost of this car with the $50,000 of mods, but we have a lot more mods coming, and some of them may surprise you, so be sure to stay tuned. Also, be sure to come back for the next video where we're going to take this car and we're going to use X-Delete on it, which makes an all-wheel drive car a rear wheel, which is supposed to give you more power. Does it really? We're gonna find out. So be sure to come back for that. Once again, my name is Bryan. Thanks for watching Kies Motorsports. If you like our videos, give us a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, and check us out at KiesMotorsports.com. And for links to everything we talked about in today's video, see the description below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.